listening to Unfiltered with Muhammad Uncut, a podcast about personal growth and authentic leadership. If you're looking for tips on how to manage others, get ahead, and make your way up the corporate ladder, this is not the show for you. This podcast is about being of service to others, leading from the heart, and evolving into a better version of yourself. Each episode brings you motivated stories about unfiltered leadership and authentic leaders, those who involve others, use their influence to amplify diverse perspectives, and inspire teams to achieve collective results. If this sounds like you, keep listening.
Hello.
Hello and welcome to the Unfiltered Podcast, and welcome to my unfiltered guest, Lisa Jones. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful because I get to spend the next 30 or 40 minutes chatting with you, learning all about the wonderful work you do, learning about those wonderful animals behind you, and telling my listeners who Lisa is and how she's changing the world by being such an unfiltered leader. So let me give people a bit of background who you are. You bring over 32 years of successful management experience, coaching. You're an expert at advocating and developing people to be the most inspirational version of themselves. I love that. Sounds similar. I know somebody who does that. That's awesome. And your approach is, you individualize leadership and management development plans based on animal personality. The pictures behind you don't give that away. And your consulting will inspire leaders. You will help them retain workers, and you will build business and relationships through that understanding. So start me off. How did you start on bringing the animals to the way that we connect with the animal within us?
Well, I thought, Muhammad, that it was something new. I later found out that it wasn't. Someone else tried to do it, but I was at work and I had 45 sales associates around me. And normally I have a rah-rah rally meeting, and I noticed it was early morning and they all sat in clusters, and they sat in the cluster of their personality. And a lot of times when they were lined up at my office, I used to go lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. And I realized that they all had their personality. And when I was young, my mother used to say, all water finds their level. And truly, I saw them as tribes. And I said, wow, wonder if, because I know about the other personality assessments, I said, wonder if we can figure out what their personalities are and help to coach them from there, because they like to align with someone who's familiar with their way of doing things. So that's how I came up with it.
So this is your brainchild.
It is. It came
Good
out of
on you. I love this. So in a moment, I want you to take us to what the different animals, I can guess what they maybe represent, because you've got a zebra, you've got a cheetah, you've got a giraffe, you've got a gazelle, you've got an elephant, and you've got a lion. They're not all behind you kind of there to the right.
That's right. Yeah.
But before this inspiration of bringing the animal kingdom to our understanding of ourselves, tell me, help my listeners understand, what's your definition of leadership and why is that important to the work that you do?
Well, leadership for me is adding value to others and being an influencer, actually aligning with the person's personality and actually adding value to them. And I totally believe that the greatest among us is the servant of all.
I love it. I think, well, this isn't about you today, but I just want to give you a bit of background. Okay. This is why I'm doing this podcast, the Unfiltered Podcast, because I believe if we can get people like you, the guests that I've had the pleasure of learning more about, to talk about service, to talk about, we want to make a change in the world, we want to make a change in the world, right? Yes. The world is not just the world we have in here, it's the world that we interact with out there, and finding that nexus to bring us together through love, through commonalities, through acceptance, through celebrating the differences, through knowing who we can be, and to your point, becoming that inspired and you didn't use the word better, you use the word inspired version of themselves?
Yes.
right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Because you're right. And you know, I use these words in my diction. I talk about influence because, you know, can we use our influence to help people rise, right? Can we
Yes.
inspire people to
Exactly.
become better? How do you do that every day? Tell me about these animals.
Okay. Well, it's great to be able to do that, and I think it's an honor. And like you said, to your point, I think that I'm changing the world one person contact at a time. I really believe that, and I watch a lot of leaders come to work or come into the workplace. I call it ecosystem, the workplace ecosystem. And they leave they're human at home, and and a lot of people feel that. But as leaders, we have to connect, like you said, we have to love. I can't tell you how many people's lives I've changed that still, even they work with me on my team maybe 20 years ago. I still know them on social
Mm.
media. They always say that I was their favorite boss. So that's exciting. So about the animals really, helps to bring fun at work. Instead of going in as a coach and I have a whiteboard and I'm going to hand out papers, we have fun. And so that is exactly, I'm kind of colorful, you don't see the normal navy on me. And so I'd like to have a good time. And I find that it causes people to remember better when they have a good time of doing something. I get better
For
retention.
sure.
And that's the
Sure.
same thing at work, when you get better retention, when they can find out what workplace animal personality am I and who am I best fitted to work with. And I even talk about the ones that are leaders and the ones that
Mm.
won't be the best leaders. And that will
Mm.
help our human resources as well.
Now, did you say ecosystem or ecosystem?
Ecosystem.
Ecosystem. But I have a feeling that ecosystem probably has something to do with some of the conversations you're having, right?
Yes, exactly
Right?
right. Hey, you gave me a new
Yeah,
idea.
I think so. I think
I
this is
like
why we
it.
connect.
That's right.
So I'm going to guess you mentioned you have a lion. So let me guess the lion is probably one of the leaders in your group.
Well, yes, the lion is a leader in the
Okay.
group. Yeah, but you don't want too many of them.
But well, we know that. I watched The Lion King, right?
Yes.
You can only have one
Mufasa.
leader of the tribe, right? And so you're either going to be what Simba's dad,
Mufasa.
Mufasa,
That's
or you're
right.
going to be, this is testing
Scar. Scar.
Scar. There you go. From
Scar.
like
Yeah,
20 years ago, nobody wants to be Scar. But we have a lot of scars in the workplace.
we do.
And to be fair to those people in the workplace, I think we have a lot of scar in us. So how do we get
Yeah.
unscarred by learning more about our animal personality?
Well, one of the ways that we get unscarred, because I was scarred before as well. When I was 24 and I was a leader at 24, very young, and I thought it was all about telling people what to do. And really, if you weren't going my way, get out of the way. And over time, I figured, I had to own up to that transactional leadership with the stick and the carrot. I had to own up to that. And then I started saying, well, you know what, if we can have a conversation at work and I can ask you where you want to be and how you want to get there, and I can give you a tool that will not only be fun, but to help you recognize who you are. And it may even help you find out that this is a great job for you, this is a great fit, and this is why you can enjoy it here, or sometimes maybe not. I've helped people really find their life's work through these animal personalities because they realized that they were cast for the wrong role.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think, if we can help people understand, then they don't, we're all dealing with the imposter syndrome at one point or another, right?
Yeah,
But if we
exactly.
know who we are, and if we can connect with our strengths, understand our weaknesses,
Yes.
appreciate the strengths and weaknesses of others, and appreciate the differences and how they can, we can be stronger because of them, not in spite of them, right? Then we can celebrate the makeups of our team. So now we've got a jungle here. We've got these different animals,
And
and you
they're a
know
team.
what? And they're a team, because normally I think that lion would be trying to have the gazelle for supper. But how do you get
Exactly.
the people to feel that they're a team? And maybe you can, give me a background or an intro to the different animals that you have.
Okay. Well, we have. I forgot about my zebra. The zebra is very. pretty much get along with most people. They're very boisterous. They will speak up at meetings, and they're very good at sales. Okay. And, they can be on a team, and they, like I said, they're going to voice their opinion. And then you have the cheetah. And the cheetah is the guy who comes to work in the very fine suits, very not really that much interested in being on a team. He's more of a loner, and he's probably the top in productivity on the team. And so, the owner has to stroke him a little bit more because he's the number one guy, or should he? So that's the question. And then you have me. I'm a giraffe. And
I knew this. I knew this.
Okay. And so a giraffe is very, they carry themselves in a certain way. They're very good decorators. They're very good leaders.
Colorful.
They're colorful, and they can see afar out. They're visionaries, actually. And people love to work with them because they normally want to have fun, and they have great retention.
So their neck and their vision really serves them well, right?
Exactly.
I like that.
And they don't have too many predators. So that's good. And then I really love the nifty elephant, because if you could get, of course, in the wild that the elephant is very loyal. And elephant will totally take care of the team, kind of like it would do its tribe in the safari. So it's always going to make sure that not only that elephant leader will know their people, will know what their worldviews are, will know how to connect with them, and can connect with them, and and very protective over the team. And so therefore, if the elephant and the lion are together, sometimes it creates a problem, because the lion wants the productivity. The lion is more autocratic in their leadership style.
Get things done.
Yeah, get things done. Militant, get things done. We got to get things done. And then going past the surface is not really what he's really interested in. You just doing the job is what he's interested in. And then we have the gazelle. And I have to tell you that we love to hire gazelles. Why? Because normally they're thin, they're beautiful, they're fast paced. Everybody likes them. They're non-threatening. And so a lot of times when people go to hire, they want to hire the gazelles. But the only thing about a gazelle is they have their set of friends, and they're really not that loyal. They're the ones that may go from job to job. You hire her as a receptionist, and then 2 weeks later, she's not coming to work because she's really not loyal to you. You can teach that over time, but pretty much, they are with their friend, they have their friend pack, and they really don't want to be bothered on a personal level with anyone else. Getting them to show up to work activities after work, not so much.
Very interesting. So let me come at you from, and no pun intended here, let me come at you from different angles, right? You can tell that.
We're having fun.
You can tell what I am, right? You want to guess?
I think you're a lion.
Leo. Yep, you got it. So I'm a lion.
You have to take the assessment. It's totally free on my website.
Oh, so here it goes. I mean, you tell people free. Now they're going to listen to the podcast. So here it goes. And before, you said the word free, and then you made me forget what I was going to say. Dang. So here's what I'm going to ask you. Teams, like these people have to get along. People in the workplace have to get along. People in a household have to get along. Yeah. A bunch of gazelles sitting around, having their, mango tea first thing in the morning. That's all they're doing, not wanting to talk to the lion or to the zebras. After a while, that doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
The cheetah is just coming in and, pouncing around and looking good. You gotta, keep in mind that there's other people in the office. So how do you, so kind of a double pronged question here. How do you get people to feel like they're on a team? But the flip side, how do you make sure that we're not now pigeonholing these people into their animal personalities?
Okay, so what I tell them, the workplace animal personality is actually a starting point. And the great thing about it is that you can be different ones. For instance, a lot of times we're encompassed with about 4 of them. We're parts of them, kind of like some of the other personality assessments. Right. And so there is a way to have these things, worked on if they want, but more so than not, it really creates a team atmosphere, and it allows the mid-level leaders that's who I normally work with as small business owners. they can see that when I say the animal kingdom or animal personalities, they go, oh, it's a wild place here. I totally see it. And so it helps them to say, okay, we have this personality. This is how they work. This is their language, kind of like the love language thing. This is how to bring what they have to they bring something to the table. For instance, like the zebras, they're very team oriented. And they love a project. Okay. And maybe the lion might not want to work on the team, but there's a place for the lion too. And guess what? The rest of the team respects it, and we understand where that lion is. And then when we come together, this is what I call the watering hole. Have you seen the watering hole in the safari during the drought?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the just cause. Okay. We have to figure out what the just cause. And if you give the team a just cause, a rallying cry, listen, we can all win. Everyone knows that if the gazelles are extinct, or we run off all the gazelles, guess what? Our ecosystem is not going to work. So we're
going to our ecosystem. If we don't have a good ecosystem, honestly, we're creating an ecosystem, right?
Yes. And none of us can survive without the other. So we're interconnected. Right. And so when the team sees that, they go, oh, I actually might need you. Right. Yes, you do.
So who doesn't need that gazelle with the vision and the, the visibility around things to tell us what's on the horizon, right? I, as a lion, would love to have a gazelle that can tell me what the vision is, but I'd also love to have a giraffe. Sorry, a giraffe. But I also, you got me thinking of the, you said that the gazelles are like big eyes and. Sorry, I'm going to get in trouble for my, there you go. But think about having that lion, the elephant, who's got my back. They're loyal. I trust them. And they're powerful, right? And so I can all of a sudden say, you know what? I'm just focused on moving forward and getting things done. But I'm glad to have somebody like you on my team, Elephant, because now I know that you've got the team's back. You see something that maybe I'm just going too fast to see, right?
Yes.
Love it. I really love it.
That's the whole premise. So it really creates where you see the individual animals, and it really creates team. It creates I need you, and here's why.
Ecosystem.
And it's like just like any football team, we all don't play the same position, and guess what? That's great. That's what diversity is all about. Right. And another thing, it's easy for me to talk about diversity and inclusion with them as well. And it's a softer approach.
So I don't know if you had this in mind when you came up with the animal system, but we do need to recognize that we are in an ecosystem with nature. It's right. Like, men and women, humans, we tend to, just trample on animals and move into their ecosystems because we have a overwhelming ecosystem. So was that part of it?
It was. See, I'm an animal lover. I'm an animal lover, first of all. And, I would pick up strays when I was young. And I realized I was coming home from work and some deer was in the road. And I looked over to the left and they were clearing out all the woods for houses. And I'm like, this is why they're laying all over the road. We're taking their homes from them. Right. And so how can we need them, they need us. And that is what we need to realize in the world today. And so for me, I'm talking about animal conservation. I'm talking about how we all get along, how we all are a part of this big ecosystem. Right. Let's respect one another. And
I know you and I are having fun in this conversation, but, on a serious note, with COVID, we're not just dealing with a virus because something happened and, we're getting sick from, COVID or the coronavirus. We're dealing with many viruses. We're dealing with a virus that's been with us for hundreds of years because of colonization and systemic racism.
Yes.
And so how do we recognize finally that if we don't create together, come to the watering hole and make room for others to drink in safety and feel like they belong there, right, then it's going to be a lion eat gazelle kind of world all the time. And that doesn't work, does it?
No, it doesn't. And in even in the ecosystem or the safari, we see, animals getting eaten at times. But, and that's part of the ecosystem too. But when it comes to, humans and trying to get along with each other, and it's a heart issue. And so, for me, I see the world, I see the racism. When I was a kid, I was spit on by two little boys because I went to an all-white school. And that was the first time I heard the N-word. And it was I went home and asked my mom, like, Mom, but anyway, so I figured that I guess I never blamed necessarily the race. I said, wow, that person had to learn that from somewhere. And so we have to continue to keep, the conversation going. We have to continue. And even as an African-American female, I am not going to say that, a certain group of people are all one way, because I have, that would be totally unfair. So how could we talk about it? And it's all about getting used to difference.
Right.
It's all about, we're used to sameness. We're comfortable with sameness. Getting used to, the world is so colorful,
Right.
and explaining to them, wouldn't the world be so much larger if you began? And you know what? A lot of people think that it's not in the workplace, but people bring this stuff to work and they're thinking about it.
Yes.
So it's the pink elephant in the room that you
Yeah.
you want to be able to line up to a person's worldview. Like, and I often say this, if Shaniqua comes to work and she has an attitude, what do you want? You want me to call somebody? If she has an attitude, you may not know what was happening in her house. Her kids might be at home by themselves, so she can try to keep this job because they have virtual learning, and that's a whole nother thing. And so being able to, try to reach out, even though you don't have that experience, to try to understand her experience, that's all. And, I think the sky is the limit. I'm not one to think that there's a conspiracy against me, because, I grew up, military pants at first, and then I went to the hood, and that's exactly where I'm from. And so my experience, and maybe the animals come from that, because I had to learn. I was in suburbia for a little bit. I was in the hood for a little bit. I went to my aunt's house who had a business, who had a huge house. And then I went back to the hood for the summer. So I had to become a chameleon, and it taught me how to relate to all personalities.
So where's the chameleon? I
He's
think
a
you
reptile.
I think you got to add him on here. So, I hear you. And I don't think any of us are born racist.
No.
But we're taught these values. And unfortunately, some of us are taught these values at an early age. And some of us become resiliently bold and accepting of other values and views, and others become resiliently ignorant and close off to their own values and views of the world. And when we refuse to recognize that our differences make us stronger, we, start judging others. And I think it's time. This is a turning point for humanity. And I know it sounds a little cliched, and a lot of us are saying it, but let's continue saying it, because maybe we'll start doing it. But this is a turning point where we can start unlearning, right? And I live in London, Ontario. So we were socially distant and isolated in our homes for about 3 months. And then George Floyd got murdered.
Yeah.
And within a few days, and I'm getting goosebumps, but within a few days, they mobilized 10,000 people to come to a park downtown. And my mom's got COPD, and, so I have people in my family who have, immune systems that are compromised. But I said to my wife, I'm going. I hate masks. They're ugly. They're not fashionable. And they're uncomfortable. But I'm going to go. I'm going to wear a mask, and I'm going to be careful. So I went with my daughter and her friends. And we walked with 10,000 people to say, enough. And, I said that we had come out of our socially distant to become socially connected, because we were rallying behind a cause. We were dealing with a virus that was, I think, more dangerous than right? More prevalent, more dangerous than COVID.
Yes.
And, racism impacts all of us. And, today we talk about you're either racist or anti-racist, right?
Yes.
And so I agree with you. It's not that we have to blame people, but we have to awaken them. We have to make them aware, and we have to ask them to act. So, and I'm not just saying that because you're an African American, because I need to have that discussion as a Muslim Canadian, right? Yeah. We all have different layers of privilege, and we all deal with different inputs of racism.
Yes, we do.
But I think you may have it a little worse than I do as a woman, a Black woman.
Yes. My company used to say I was the great 2 points or 3 points. They used to say I was 2 or 3 points. And, I was one of the first African-American managers in my company, and the only way, and I felt like I had to be twice as good. Mm-hmm. I mean, I worked 3 times as hard, twice as good, but I was determined, not that I was, not happy with them, but I was determined to let them see my value and that I was smart enough to add value to the company. Right. And so that's what I wanted. And, I kind of went after it, and, they wouldn't go to lunch with me sometimes, because, not only, I think it was maybe more that I was female. And so, I had that, and I know what that feels like, and like you said, to your point, when you marched in that huge crowd, which had to be so liberating, here in America, we did that. And I think the wheels kind of came off here because of the violence. And, I was telling my friends, and sometimes they may not agree with me all the time, but I said, listen, for the ones who think a certain narrative about us, when you tear up businesses and you loot and riot, I said, that's feeding into their narrative. So is there anything else we can do to come together to help them to see that we're one people? We're not violent. We just want to be heard, and we want, our rights. And so it doesn't have to end in tearing businesses down and things like that. I don't think so.
Lisa, I can't believe I just had to hear you say that. We just want our rights.
Yeah.
In 2020. In 2020.
Well, and only reason why I say that, people that know me may say, Lisa, you live in a very nice home, okay? But I had to work for it. So when people say that we're pigeonholed here, we can't get out, the world is set up against us. Right. I don't always go with that narrative. I know that if your mother was a teenage mother, and I was a teenage mother, and actually my daughter entered the top 25 in Forbes magazine, Strivers and Survivors. She's Sassy Jones. I mean, she's known nationally. And, I had her when I was young, and, that happens in the hood, and that happens in the neighborhood, but we can go and change the narrative and tear it up. And I know I'm rare, but I like to go back to my neighborhoods, and I would go back to the community center and say, see, this can happen, because a lot of times when we become successful, we move away. And we move to suburbia, and we don't turn around and go back. So, I want to have the conversation with everybody that, listen, my whole animal personality, we can all get along. Can we all get along? Let's see what we can do in the community ourselves, so we can also keep the respect. Don't kill the little children and mow them down. And then you're talking about Black Lives Matter over here when our neighborhoods matter too. So.
Well, and what you said earlier about, people doing things and, looting and whatever, right? I mean, when you have a watering hole that doesn't have equal access to everyone, you do get mayhem. You do get people behaving like animals, or animal, and sorry, maybe that was.
No, it's not.
Right? I think we can behave better. Right? Yeah. We're angry. And I did not mean to degrade. Right. It's just, I think to your point, there is a better way to behave, and we have to go beyond our instinctual anger and say, I belong to this watering hole just as much as you do. And the fact that I have to say that is a sad state. The fact that you have to say, we just want to write.
Yeah.
I just want to say F off to anyone who says no. I'm sorry, that just gets me angry that anyone has to fight for the rights. And we look at Indigenous communities today here, and there's something going on in Nova Scotia and in Canada, where the Indigenous have no rights to, or there's fights over lobsters and access. And
yeah,
I'm going to sit on the fence with this because we need dialogue and not anger. But at the same time, we need to recognize the rights of people and their narratives and their stories. And we need to recognize how we have put people in cages for years. And when they behave in a certain way and start flailing out and getting angry and acting in ways that doesn't seem natural, what did I do to contribute to that, right? And I know we started this conversation really light and we're kind of going into a very serious zone. But when I think about, you know, even you've got a great story when you go back to the hood, to the center, and you talk to people. But you know what? You probably stand in front of a lot of people that still see you as a Black American, you don't matter kind of person. Right?
Oh, yeah, especially, you know, and I experience it because my daughter is wealthy. And so we go places, even now as, you know, people of means. And we went to a polo match, and we were watching the horses, and we had our little tent, and you should have seen how we
what are you doing here?
Like, what do you do? You know, are you Beyonce or something? Like,
what? Or are you working here?
I know.
Right. And I
think
know
I knew we did it, but just to say, you don't have a right here. Like, and so this is born, you know, and so I know that this is a learned trait over time, something that's possibly in your genes, or so I never, you know, even when I've had people call me the N word, or, you know, because I'm a woman, a super B, because I am, you know, a strong leader and somewhat outspoken at times, you know, I look at it like they have a problem. Like, it's the sickness is in them. Can we help you? Come lay down on the couch, because you're really not superior. We're all human beings.
Right.
And so, you know, that's how I kind of deal with it. So I don't get
back to love. You know, you didn't turn your back on them. You're like, can we help you? Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it hurts. I think I think it hurts when, as a Black woman who's doing okay, you somehow have to be the spokesperson for everything of your color. But at the other extreme, you know, as a Black woman who may be hurting, you now have to turn around and say, I can also heal. And I think that's the only way that we can do it. And whenever we're faced with anger and hurt, and I know this is tough, because some people say to the same people that you told them looting is not the right way.
Yeah.
I think, you know, Michael Jackson said it best, and I'm not just saying, I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Yes.
And I think, you know, the only way those animals are going to get along in the water goes is if they recognize that they all have a right to be there. And, you know, I'm bringing it back there, right? Yes. It's true, right?
Because that watering hole is a drought, and and a lion during drought or when they need water will move over. I mean, they have seen all of them able to. So if the animals can do it, I think
we can do it.
We can do it. Yeah,
we can do it. And you know, and I say that as a matter of empowerment, that the animals do it instinctually. We've forgotten to do it instinctually. We've allowed our egos to tell us that it's only about us, and we have to recognize that it's all about us. Right?
Exactly.
Thank you. I want to ask you, I have something called the Unfiltered Thought of the Week, where I ask the guest, hey, what can you share from your learned experience, from, you know, any advice that you can share with us, any kind of awakening that that you had? What can you share with us to become an inspired version of ourselves, to be a better human, a better animal?
Well, that's a good question. And so I think that when we're talking about being human, I think that we, as leaders, I think that we should, you know, go to work and work with people as human beings, get to know them, and not be afraid to align with someone that you totally have no way of relating to, and make it your goal. You know, write it down on your goal, your list of things to do, to go talk to Johnny or Tyrone and see Tyrone. And, you know, he may be working, you know, he may be putting furniture on trucks or unboxing, or he could be an executive. Go out to lunch, find out, Don't just say that he's my friend. I have a Black friend, but go and find out about who you're working with and find out their value. And another thing that we're noticing, of course, the Gen Zs are the ones, a lot of them are the ones that are out there protesting. Because one thing that I love about Gen Zs is that they don't just talk about it, they are about it. But another thing is, they're living it. And another thing about them, they don't want the hierarchical leadership. And so I see that, our workplace ecosystems are going to start becoming non-hierarchical. They're going
I hope so. I'm praying that that's what's going to happen.
Well, if they want retention, because, the Gen Zs are giggers. So if they want retention and we want our workplace, we want to be productive. And another thing, if you were wondering, or if you're struggling in your business, and it could be a huge business, because I've seen huge businesses struggle, in the boardroom is the most undiverse place, in the boardroom. And so I appeal to executives a lot to look around your boardroom, see if it's colorful, see if you have different worldviews, and you will find when you're looking for a solution to that problem for your business, you are going to find the answer when you have a totality of thought and thoughts from different perspectives. That is a powerful narrative that will sink right down into the product that you're selling. And you will, when people want to be the same and they want to have the good old boys club, that thing is coming crashing down. So let's open up and think about a new way of doing it. Let's be innovative.
I love it. Well, you certainly have with the animal personalities, and you have with your passion and your desire to inspire a better version of ourselves. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for the conversations that you've had with, people, and that you continue to have, and that you had with us today. Thank you for being my unfiltered guest. Stay blessed.
You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Unfiltered, the show about authentic leadership and personal growth. Like what you heard? Click subscribe, share it, and tell a friend about it. And don't forget to leave a rating.